Hey everyone, I'm NATO King, and it's time to get back to Altered Destiny. Last time we made it to this crossroads, which is kind of the hub for the rest of the game. The problem is that since I brought everything down from the floating city, I'm carrying a whole bunch of junk. For the moment, we're only going to need a couple of these things, so it's time to do some inventory management because there is a limit, and I'm almost there. I'm going to drop, say, the bowl of popcorn. That sphere that I picked up only ever even has one use. It tells you this story about the battle between the Longa and the Eula. And that's even only a preview of the full story, which we're going to get later when we go to the Order of the Jewel. And it says as much. So we can drop the sphere here, and we never need to pick it up again. We also don't need the tube until we actually go to the Order of the Light. I guess the frags in the tube are an invitation to the Order. I'd never bother to look at them. And I won't need any weapons where I'm going. Not just yet. So first we're going to head off to the northwest here. This is the forest where we're going to capture the Indelibird. Hopefully you remember that Vinda sent us here to capture that bird so that he can do a divination. It's got some catchy music, and of course, natural springs that Vinda warned us about. Nodules everywhere. They're actually called nodules, I just never bothered to look at them. Funny looking plants, gotta tell you. And over here, there's a rise that leads to an obviously climbable wall. So we'll save before doing it, as we always do, and go climb it. Say hello to the other natural spring of this forest. And you know, we got points for getting sprinkled by this thing. Unfortunately, that's not actually a good thing, because if I can ever manage to make my way around these nodules, we can get to the back wall now. But we're too stiff to climb up, because that powder stiffened all of our joints. As a matter of fact, that powder is doing more than just stiffen joints, as we'll see if... There we go. There's another hoppa coming along. It causes anything that it sprinkles its pollen on to slowly change into a tree-like creature. And eventually just out and out turn into a plant. You might or might not have seen me walk through the thing. It will only ever catch you if you go towards that rise at the back. And this is an interesting and dangerous looking place. We've got a platform out there with a beast with an axe. I could stand on the other half of the platform and go out to meet him, but as I'm currently unarmed, that seems like a bad idea. I'll be going back there much later, of course. As it is, I'm sort of waiting around to see if I actually start turning into a plant, or at the very least, walking more stiffly. I think that actually depends not on time or movement, but how many things you type. And as I'm not typing very many things and don't really feel like hanging around and waiting for that, let's not continue the game unable to do almost anything. And we'll just pretend the Hoppa never sprinkled us. we'll have to come back and deal with that considerably later. For now, let's just climb a section of the wall that we can safely get to. I hate the climbing animation in this game. It's way too slow. So I always speed it up. And now we're in the upper level of the forest. Some kind of little creature. Oh. Well, I did kind of intend to show you that those whirlpools will kill you, but not quite this early on. I'm not really sure which particular natural springs Vindo is trying to warn us about, but they're all deadly. Pretty much anything in this game will kill you if you give it a chance. Alright, let's try this again with less death. So what is that creature in the corner? No, the game only knows the word creature. But fortunately it does, because it'll tell you what pretty much any creature is, even though PJ has no way to know. And before I fall down again. There, at last, is the Indela bird. And walking carefully around the whirlpool, we brought a cage, which we can use to trap it. We will, of course, have to set the trap, and then put some bait in. Vinda told us that Indela birds are attracted to bright pigments. My understanding is that you could also use the bowl of popcorn for this, but then you can't complete the game because you need the popcorn elsewhere. And we've got us a bird. But there is one other thing that we need up on this terrace. That should be over in this direction. Ah, yes, there it is. Right next to the base of this giant trunk, we can find a little shell. Why we need this particular shell is kind of a mystery. But it's another one of those things that you can find out later in the game that you need it and then have to walk all the way back. Since I'm standing in the water here, I'll just fill the shell with it. Should be able to fill it with any water in the game, I think. But probably just the water in this forest. So very carefully return to the wall. Because I think you can fall down the hole that you climbed up through. And we're done in this forest for the moment. Oh, another Hoppa. They do show up from time to time just to give you a hint about the fact that they exist and they can turn you into a plant. Unfortunately, there's one more thing we're going to need before we can get the divination. And rather than go find out about it and then come back here, I'm going to leave the shell here for the moment. The water's not going to evaporate. And we'll head to the southeast, to the other forest in the game. And oddly enough, the music here sounded familiar to me even the first time I played this game, and I don't know why. If anybody else recognizes this from anywhere, please let me know. Anyway, I believe this is called the Somnolent Forest. There's a reason for it. Everything in here kind of reminds you of sleep. You know, the trees are somna trees. He knows so much about the ecosystem of this world. I don't think this is even the pimenta flower. I think the pimenta flower is over to the right. A little orange thingy. This big one looks like a man-eating plant, but I don't think it actually does anything. And here's a screen where you have to be careful because you can fall off the cliff to your death. It's kind of weird, because I seem to remember if you type look leaf in this screen, it thinks you're talking about the flu box. But, oh well. I had to try it. But the game did draw my attention to this hammock here. And we get some points for lying in it. And PJ just falls right to sleep. Well, I thought that was a synonym for wake up. Alright, moving on. We don't really have a whole lot of use for the hammock yet. Frankly speaking, we could do what we need to do with it, but there's no indication of why. I mean, I figured it out without the clue my first time playing. But there's a lot of stuff in here I didn't figure out. So we'll just keep moving through the forest. I don't know what the deal is with these last two screens. I think there's just too many animated plants. Causes PJ's animation to be really jerky. And lying on the ground is the thing that we came all the way here for. One leaf. There is, of course, a path further south. We can go this way. Hope that looks as ominous to you as it does to me. That's right, you die as soon as you go that way. I did mention that this is one of those games where you have to save early, save often. Because there's a lot of really unfair death. And I think that looks like a path to the northwest from that room, but it's not. Also looks like there's a cave over here. At least they acknowledged the fact that it looks like it's a cave. We've got a long way to go to get back to the crossroads and back to Vinda. And regrettably, we have to make the whole trip on foot. There's no jumping around or warping quickly from place to place. You just gotta walk through every screen every time and risk falling off the cliff like I almost did back there. There are some screens where you want to save just walking from one screen to another. Alright, finally off that road. I really like that music, though. I can't really explain why. I don't think it's very good. So to get back up, we have to wait for the tube plants to produce a large floater. Fortunately, that doesn't usually take too long, But in my experience, if you play the game for a while, eventually the large floater just doesn't appear again. It usually seems like you only get one opportunity to go back up. So that's why I took care of all the business that I could up there and got all my clues. Oh, I don't think I've ever seen those creatures before. Hey, I am looking for something to do. It's not my fault you're not giving me a floater. There we go. And unfortunately, the large floater always dumps us off at the very west end of the island, so we have to walk all the way back. And as always, walking anywhere in this game is potentially treacherous. Actually, I will say a lot of the music in this game sounds like it should be familiar from somewhere else. I've identified one such tune, and it's coming up shortly. I want to save just in case I misstep onto the transporter. But it's actually got a pretty wide, I guess, aisle that you can walk onto it from. Unlike almost everything else in the game. This was back in the age when the character's position on the screen could be considered an element of the puzzle. So, of course, there are going to be some narrow walkways and treacherous paths. We've only seen the bare minimum so far. Kind of wanted to draw your attention to that little thingy up on top of a pillar there. It's a weird animation, and different things can pop out of it. But let's get on with this divination. Alright, you've got your bird. Yeah, see, now he tells me we need something for the bird to leave its tracks on, which is why I brought the leaf. And now it seems that we've finally got everything that we need. If we can get started. Today. Or someday. Oh, okay, there we go. The bird's got to walk off the side of the screen. And then come back. And I do really like this part. So there's our hint. Something to do with dreams. And of course, the leaf itself is also going to be important. But Vinda's not going to tell us why. And trying to get more information about a dream, the game only treats dream as a verb. Didn't we all learn our lesson from Leisure Suit Larry too? Anyway, this is why the leaf is important, because some of the footprints on it look like arrows. The rest look like the marks that any Indela bird would make on a leaf when dancing to the tune of Puttin' on the Ritz. At least I managed to get on the transporter on my first try. Actually, that's still running pretty slow. Let's speed it up. And finally, we're done with the floating village entirely, and the floater is just out of reach, I think. Yeah, I'm not getting back on the transporter in an attempt to grab it. So we'll just have to wait for another one to float by. I've never noticed any lack of small floaters up here. It's just the large floaters at the crossroads tend to be a bit annoying and don't want to appear sometimes. Okay, plenty of large floaters coming by, but those will kill me. Would you believe this isn't even the most annoying part of the game? Not by a very, very long shot. You'll know the annoying part when we get there. It's not really all that far off at this point, and it's one of those places that you could go right from the start, get all the way to the end of it, and then realize that you don't have everything you need. I'm not going to be falling into that trap this time. But back down we go, because now I think it's about time that we put Vinda's divination to better use. So for this, we're not going to need that leaf. We are going to need to take the tube, because I'm going to take a shortcut to our next destination once I'm done here. May as well take the leaf with me. I'm not going to need it, but it's not a very big thing. We're going to need the axe where we're going. We're going to need the shell and the tube where we're going after that. So that's my plan here. Like I said, 2 of these roads from the crossroads lead to the same place, and that road on the left from here leads to one of the other places I could have gone straight to. And actually, I don't necessarily need to come here before going there. It's just on the way, so why not? With all that done, let's hop into the hammock and do the first thing that occurred to me to do when I found myself lying in a hammock and falling asleep. No, you can't sleep when you're asleep. But we can dream. For some reason, he dreams about my 3 sons. And was it The Great Gatsby? Lone Ranger? Baywatch? Or is it Pacific Blue? And Vinda. Yep, this is yet another clue that's going to be important later on. Even though a lot of it just sounds like general advice, it's all telling us to do specific things. And suddenly we're somewhere else. Or perhaps in the same place, but in a dream world. And I couldn't figure out how to do anything while I was there. So we'll have to go back again. We'll just run through this animation one more time, make sure we've got a good screenshot for the preview picture. Nothing has changed, of course. But now we need to wake up. because the PJ in the dream is still asleep. And this place, as you can probably tell, is very dangerous. There's pools of acid all over. And a cliff, which will die if we fall down. So it's got the same basic layout as the forest. We couldn't go west from the screen where PJ was sleeping, but we can go around this way, down the path. And there's something blocking the path here. It says the poison gas is a reminder of home in the city, but unlike in Doctor Who, this really is dangerous. It's a really obscure reference, I'm sorry. So, we need to find another way to get down the cliff. Exactly the same animation. They were so lazy sometimes. Alright, now that big, delicately balanced pile of rocks is obviously what we need to worry about here. And there we go. We've got a way down. Of course, this is the important part of the dream. Why any of this is in our dream, I have no idea. Yeah, I'll certainly attempt to get to that picture. But it's gonna be a challenge. She says "oh" a lot. That's kind of annoying. I never actually tried looking at the picture before, and that's probably why. Didn't save quite often enough, did I? Alright, we'll get this eventually. Like I said, a lot of it is just a matter of positioning yourself carefully and making sure to slow down the game speed when you need to. So what we need to do is to cut down these two very obviously placed trees. Now if you brought the sword, you can cut down one tree with it, and then it goes dull. Like Alnar said, it's not going to hold its edge for very long. The axe, on the other hand, can do everything that the sword could ever do, and never loses its edge. And if you're gonna chop down a tree, why wouldn't you use the axe? And somehow, with both of those trees there, it just makes a bridge. And you don't even have to walk carefully, because I don't think you can step outside the sides of the bridge from within. On the other hand, going back, you do need to be a little bit careful just to make sure you don't, say, fall into that giant gaping hole on your way out or something. But there we go, I've successfully navigated the exit, and now I can give Caliph her picture and get my reward. A mirror that I got in a dream, which somehow manages to still exist in the real world when I wake up. I mean, I don't think this world is actually a dream as such. It's a real world that just happens to be accessed by dreaming. Or something like that. I mean, it doesn't really matter. Point is, you go in here, you bring the axe, you get a mirror. And now, in order to escape, we return to our body and fall asleep on top of it. And here we go. Now all I gotta do is escape the forest again, and we won't need to return here until we're ready to take that path with the howlers. Naturally, that's endgame stuff. So, like I said, cutting a little bit of travel time, we're going to take the left path and go to the southwest fork from the crossroads. As you can see, the road kind of loops around here and goes right by the edge of this mountain. And there doesn't really seem to be a whole lot to do here, does there? Some kind of rock snake, I guess? Ah, it's a turtle. But the turtle's not important. The cliff itself is important, and I'll be showing you what we do with that, and leading to a long series of quests next time. See you guys then.